Hey guys, Apex here. Today we'll be finishing part 2 of my racial tier list in Wrath of the Lich King. We'll be finishing off with the Alliance, and you might see I am playing Alliance right now. I've actually been a long time Horde fan myself, but I do like the Alliance too, and they get some buffs come Wrath of the Lich King. So, quick disclaimer, you don't have to play the best. It's just if you really want to min-max, but just play what you enjoy, because that's how you're going to have the most fun playing the game. All right, guys, here is part 2. Now, we will be starting off with the Night Elves first. Now, they have one passive racial, I believe called Quickness, that will reduce the chance that they'll be hit by 2% by melee and range attacks. So that can make it so you can be missed by a scatter shot, a silencing shot, a mortal strike, just damage in general, a kill shot, an execute. Very strong passive, stronger than all the spells, I'd say, on average, as you are going to be getting hit all the time. The spell one can be really good, but a lot of times, let's say like you're playing Blood Elf, you have that 2% miss with a Blood Elf. That miss might be on like an Ice Lance or just something weak a lot of the time. It's not going to be that game-breaking thing. And that applies to the melee and range as well, but having it be all melee and ranged, that can even apply to like a Resto Druid trying to bash you. So that's quite strong. Then they have the Shadow Mode, which is the highest skill cap ability out of all of them. It works like a Rogue's Vanish used to, where let's say you're getting death curled and you see that traveling towards you, you can react or anticipate it, or both, and Shadow Mode right as it's about to hit you, and you take no damage, and you don't even get CC'd. This can swing things so heavily. If someone's relying on a defensive cooldown or maybe counter pressure, then you being able to vanish / Shadow Mode, that ability can just completely turn the game. So very powerful, especially on like let's say you're playing a druid and another druid cycloning you, and you're behind in the cast. So then you're able to Shadow Meld to then reset their cast and then get the clone off before them. So that's where like a Night Elf druid would be a lot better than a Tauren druid. Although if you're close, then maybe the Tauren can stun you and then get the clone off. So there's that as well. But very powerful, especially on something like a Hunter where you have your Feign Death, Deter, Prep, Deter again, Silence, Shadow Meld, Disengage. Very, very powerful. Maybe Pet Ravage if you're running that instead of Crab. So Night Elf's very good, but their best racial of all, Wisp form. They get to move faster when they're dead. So if you suck, pick Night Elf. Okay, so realistically, where would I put Night Elf? I would be putting them in the good tier. I would probably put them pretty much the same as Undead and Orc, but I would maybe put them just slightly lower, as theirs is more situational versus the Undead and the Orcs is just going to be good pretty much all the time. So Night Elf's good. Definitely good. Now we have the Draenei. Now, they have a 1% passive for everyone, including yourself, to get 1% more hit on spells and melee. So that's good already. Then they also have their Gift of the Naru, which is now instant. And it's an instant hot on a 3-minute cooldown, which can heal a decent amount. So let's say you're an Ellie Shaman or you're a Resto Shaman. You can get a nice little heal built into a cast or Riptide or maybe a Bobble. You could instant Bobble and Gift of the Naru a teammate, heal them quite a bit. So Draenei's good. It's not the best. I would probably end up putting them in the okay. I'd probably put them worse than Blood Elf. So Draenei's one of my favorite, but realistically, I'd probably have to put them there. And then we'll be going on to the humans. Now, humans were one of the ones that changed quite a bit from classic BC to Wrath. Humans, Orcs, Undead, but humans a ton. Their perception was very powerful in BC, especially in Arena. But now it's passive. It's much weaker, but they have a little bit of passive stealth detection. That's good. Then they have 3% spirit, which is good for a Disc Priest, but also Shadow a little bit because they usually run spirit gear. But the thing is, they have this thing called Every Man for Themselves, and that alone, if they just had just that, ignore everything else you see on the screen. If they had just that, I would still put them at the very top. Humans are, no question, the best race. They are so busted. And then the fact that they have 3 more expertise on maces and swords, the 3% spirit, the little bit of stealth detection, it's like, you don't even need that. Being able to have 2 trinkets, you could have like, let's say, Bobble and Key. Or you could have double DPS trinkets like Death's Verdict and Heroic Death's Verdict. Or like Sharpened Twilight Scale and then Deathbringer's Will. Look up these trinkets if you are interested or remember them. So very powerful. That causes you to have to maybe raid a little more, but it's just getting the trinket, so it's not too hard. But humans, if you can play human with your class in PvP, you want to be human. It is the best, no question. I mean, I would maybe even put it like a tier above where it's at right now, because it's just clearly the strongest. And so we're going on to gnomes. So they have their escape artists, get out of roots, get out of slows, which is still strong. It's not as good as in BC because there's just a lot more ways to get out of slows and roots now, or at least it feels that way, I'd say. Like a warrior, they have just more mobility, blade storm, just more dispel, sacred cleansing. Maybe it's because they always play with holy pallies, but so they're still good. I don't think they're as strong as they were. It depends on what you're playing. If you're playing, let's say, a warrior, that might be one of the better ones, but I would end up putting them probably on the lower end of okay. Maybe, yeah, I would put them below troll for sure. Then we will go to the dwarf, which was very strong in BC, and they had their stone form, which would instantly get rid of all poisons, diseases, and bleeds. The diseases didn't matter as much back then, but now we have DKs, so that's good. And being able to stone form off a wound poison, and then be able to heal for double basically, because you're not mortal striked, and then instantly do a bauble or a desperate prayer, extremely strong. So that is still very good. And you'd be wanting to play a dwarf for, I mean, it's like if you're playing a healer alliance, you have humans to contend with. So humans are still going to beat out the dwarf. But if you don't have to min-max play the best, like dwarf would be the next best for sure out of all the healers, I'd say, even if you included horde. So I would put dwarf probably at the bottom of good. Still very strong. And then they had the 2% chance to be missed by cold, frost spells, but DKs, and of course the frost mage, which you're going to see a lot of DKs and frost mages. You'll be able to resist chains of ice, which is their main frost spell that they're using, and that can come into play a lot. Then you have the little gun specialization, but if you're PvEing as a hunter, you're probably going to have a crossbow. So that doesn't matter as much, and I would say you could even move sort of Blood Elf, Night Elf, and Dwarf, like even these four, even Orc, like all four of these are actually somewhat close, but I think the Blood Elf racial can negatively impact a lot of the other DRs you might have. So that's why I'd put them lower, similar of the reason of Torrent. And that concludes my tier list, guys. My next videos will include a Winter's guide, as well as an overview of Wrath of the Lich King compared to other expansions, and I will probably end up doing a Professions guide as well. So if those sound interesting to you guys, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.